for sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was alive. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was alive. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. This is Global Television. It's Global Morning. Sincere apologies for coming behind schedule this morning, occasioned by a couple of unforeseen circumstances. But the consolation is we are delighted to be here with you. Last day of the week, as we know, it's the business week, precisely that is. And it's been a bit of an interesting week, as it's the second week already has started. As we know, it's in the month of January. Just by the way, this morning I heard two gentlemen actually having a friendly banter on radio about the month of January. One of them saying that, look, when I was a much younger boy growing up in this country, January used to feel like 5 years bundled into a 1 month cycle. But today it moves almost at the speed of light, at least compared to what it had been a couple of decades back and things like that. At some point, some years ago, we heard people say that, look, be careful how you spend during the festive period, during December, just not be impulsive about your purchasing. Rein in your instincts, as they say, when you need to buy, when there is the nudge to purchase an item and things like that, because January is always extremely long. You guys ground out financially because of the demands for people who would have already spent excessively in December, going into the end of year. By January, they'll have to tell themselves the truth, like my mom would say. But that doesn't seem to be pretty much the case these days. Not so many people complain about January. If people complain, it's not usually in this day and age because of the January factor. It's essentially on account of the fact that you just need to have those problems anyway, whether it was January or any other month of year, things like that. So, which means that for the most part, most people, individuals, households, families have now realized that January can, come with its own demands. Therefore, we've got to be very careful how we spend the December so that in January, it doesn't become a case of people who played in December and now they have to pay all right, in January. So the principle of pay now, play later apparently is in play for many people, right? So that makes it beautiful. It's already the 10th day as it stands today, and it's just for example 10 more days before Donald Trump gets inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States. That in itself is going to come with a lot of talking points. Maybe a bit of drama in between for those who have followed the personality and character of the U.S. president-elect, particularly since 2015, 2016, of course going into the election all the way into 2021, right, the January 6th event as they call it, all right, and all of that. Again, Global TV will follow all of this for you, just bring you blow-by-blow accounts of the Trump phenomenon as we know it, all right? How does he define or redefine the system of governance in the U.S.? How does he, as it were, upset the international political system? Is it about tariff? Is it about foreign policy? Is it about the American first push that he has never been apologetic about, for example, and that again has not changed? Is it about immigration, the issue around border, and all of the as he calls them, the Mexicans whom he says bring drugs and crimes into the U.S. and things like that? So what exactly will happen? Of course, he's already saying that there is need for the United States and Canada to merge. More like from a standpoint, the US should adopt Canada, that kind of thing. Europe is already catching cold, even when Donald Trump has not sneezed. Officially, he will sneeze on the 20th, and he will continue sneezing all else equal for the next 4 years. So that cold catching moment will be here for a while. That's guaranteed. So we will follow this development for you as it unfolds. Of course, there are also domestic issues here that we are dealing with. There are talking points around armed forces, veterans, those who have sacrificed their lives, all right, those who have had to take the fall for the rest of us to be alive, if you like, to be protected, to feel a sense of being secure in this country. For several decades, there are talking points around them as well. What are we doing to look out for those they left behind, even for those who are still here with us? All right, what are we doing for them, for the troops who are on the front lines, those who are in the theater across this country, whether the southeast, up in the northwest or the northeast, or even somewhere in north central? Benin, for example, have been a hotspot for many years. All right, what are we doing to continue to make them feel that sense of belonging and continue to stay patriotic, even when it means laying down their lives for the rest of us? It's a big talking point. It's far beyond just the emblem that we wear and all of the rhetoric, all of the things we say about the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, about our armed forces, our military, and the entire defense community in this country. So much to talk about, but let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk some more. Of course, we have newspaper and the headlines to be reviewed this morning for you. We're back shortly. Do stay with us, everyone. right, thank you everyone for staying with us. Former US President Jimmy Carter finally got buried yesterday. It was a moment of a truckload of eulogies for him, starting with the incoming president, Joe Biden, talking about a lifetime that was characterized by integrity, by justice, and a commitment to upholding the values of human rights, particularly in U.S. foreign policy, and that much we continue to see even beyond his time at the White House. And by the time he passed at the age, of course some people will say the ripe age of 100, it was very clear that this in practical sense was a life well spent. But the question is, how much are we going to glean from all of that beyond the eulogies and the tributes, all right, to replicate in our own little corner where we are being saddled with the responsibility of discharging leadership is very important. Because at the end of the day, what matters is how much we're able to show on account of what we have learned, what we've seen about all of these. Let's take a quick break. There's so much to talk about these because we want to bring you headlines so you understand where the news is heading this morning and stay ahead of fake news. All right. All right, let's turn to the papers for you. We begin looking at the headlines from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Let's see first what the headline is on the front page of the Daily Trust. All right, the big one here says many killed as gunmen attack Katsina village. That's on the front page of the Daily Trust. Many killed as gunmen attack Katsina villages. Northern groups, I should say, demand VAT reduction to 3%. Northern group demands VAT reduction to 3%. All right, that's also on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then one with a picture of the Minister of Finance, who is also the coordinating Minister of the Economy here. Wale Edun says Edu Bagudu grilled as Senate opens 2025 budget defense. Yakubu Gowon University, an honor well deserved. That's a university named after the former military leader, talking about General Yakubu Gowon. Right, it says Yakubu Gowon University, an honor well deserved. Also exposed betrayers, Kano sacks SSG breaks silence. Also exposed betrayers, Kano SSG sacked SSG breaks silence. Man bags 6 months jail for inciting mob against FRSC officials. Man bags 6 months jail for inciting mob against FRSC officials. Police declare 2 teenage girls missing, and they were asking yourself what exactly could have led to that. Police declare 2 teenage girls missing. All of these are coming from the front page of today's issue of the Daily Trust newspaper. And the one with the kicker here that says insecurity. LG rules out foreign mercenaries. Right, Tinubu calls for increased currency swap between China and Nigeria. Insecurity, China offers 1 billion naira grant to Africa to enable them fight insecurity. Incidentally, a big on the program. But at this point, we're turning to the Nigerian Tribune for you. Let's also bring you a few headlines from there before we take a break and look at other papers for you as well. Right, the Nigerian Tribune, and that's our next port of call this morning. As we'll have from there. All right, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, the first one here says, yes, the Nigerian Tribune. The first one says, Tinubu seeks China's increase in currency swap deal. Nigerian Tribune. Tinubu seeks China's increase in currency swap deal. Fuel subsidy proceeds, that's the kicker. Finance Minister demands closed door session. Lawmakers. Fuel subsidy proceeds. Finance Minister demands closed door session with lawmakers. Why does it have to be closed door? Is it not Nigeria's money? Is it not taxpayers' money anymore? Or is it now private fund? Well, you can read details for yourself when you pick up a copy of the Nigerian Tribune today. All right. What more do we have here? It says Northern tax reform bills. Northern stakeholders demand VAT reduction to 3%, and the writer says call for relocation of corporate headquarters of banks, telecom companies to Abuja. Stress risk factor for high blood pressures, sudden death, cardiologists. Court remands Lagos teacher, sets bail at 200,000 for assaulting 3-year-old pupil. You find those details on page 12 of the Nigerian Tribune today. By the way, that's a story about a young child who was said to have been slapped. A 3-year-old child, if you say, was slapped by a teacher, and that in itself has become a big talking point. But let's look at a few more headlines. This time, the ones immediately below the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune. top right, it says Human Rights Community names Oyebanji 2024 Governor of the Year. Right, over 120 million workers globally at risk of redundancy. That's according to World Economic Forum. That is it's a sizable number, 120 million. In fact, it says over 120 million workers globally at risk of redundancy, according to World Economic Forum. Fuel subsidy proceeds. Finance Minister demands closed-door meeting with lawmakers. We already brought you that headline just a while ago. It's quite interesting, but we hope this doesn't end up in some sort of off the mic moments, because that in itself has been quite a challenge for us in this country. Of course, that has never stopped really, neither has it changed. Okay, those are the headlines I have for you from today's issue of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. We're going to bring you a few more papers shortly, but first let's take a quick break at this point. All right, so take a quick break now, just to prep for, of course, we have the Global AN News up ahead for you at 8 o'clock Lagos time, but after this break, more headlines from the papers. right, I will return to the headlines for you now, but this time we go straight to the Daily Independent newspaper. One headline here says, crude oil at $73 reflects growing volatility in global markets. That's on the Daily Independent. Cargo demand declines in Africa by 0.7% in November, climbs worldwide. Take battle to bandits, terrorist scams, Tinubu charges. How many more times do we need to charge the military? So only 3.36 trillion naira into appropriation bill into law. Sanwo-Olu signs 3.36 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill into law. That's actually the Lagos State governor there. No HMPV in Nigeria. We're on alert. Commenced testing. NCDC is the entity to whom that headline is credited. Of course, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention has always been on top of its game regarding public health concerns of this significance time and again. Right. So they say, look, there's no cause for alarm. We're on top of all of this. So there's no HMPV in Nigeria. We're on alert, and then of course we are also testing going forward. All right. Influx of bandits. Afenifere urges Southwest governors to prioritize what? All right. Read up details when you pick up a copy of today's issue of the Daily Independent newspaper. All right. You have all of those details this morning. All right. Then, of course, we move on to bring you orders here. It says, first off, it says, the other one here says, Sand Merchants and the Shylock Syndrome. It's an article you can read up or you pick up a copy of the Independent, Daily Independent today, I should say. But that's all we have from the Daily Independent. Our last paper will be the Punch newspaper for you this morning. The Punch newspaper is our next paper for you this morning. So let's go end it up there with the headlines. Big one saying Nigeria-China plan collaboration on military training, arms production. Nigeria-China plan collaboration on military training, arms production. All right. Man jailed 2 years for defrauding American of $345,000. Man jailed 2 years for defrauding American of $345,000. And on the foreign scene, we read Biden, Trump pay last respect as Carter is buried. Trump pay last respect as Carter is buried. Sanwo-Olu signs 3.6 trillion naira 2025 budget. We brought you that headline a while ago. Afenifere Igboho offers support combats it. Inflation will drop to 27% by December. That's according to reports. So that's some stretch for us. Looking at the end of the year, some 11 months away from today. Right. PDP will disagree over 83 billion naira diversion by LG chairman. PDP will disagree over 83 billion naira diversion by LG chairman. Once we heard 12 billion just at the start of this week. Today we're hearing 83. So you're wondering, where did the other tens of billions come from? How much of politics are we playing with these, and how much of facts do we have in it? All right. But again, it's PDP and APC in Edo State. That fight didn't start yesterday, and we don't have guarantees it's going to end today either. But the interest of the good people of that great state must always come first, regardless of who is at the government house, the Osadebe Avenue government house, as they call it. All right. The important thing is, how does all of this serve the best interest of the Edo man and the Edo woman today and always? All right. Suspected cultists shoot Ogun Baba to death. Suspected cultists shoot Ogun Baba to death. Quite there on the page this morning. Driver killed as vehicle catches fire in Lagos. Sad story. Driver killed as vehicle catches fire in Lagos. 3 killed in Bayelsa community court clash. 3 killed in Bayelsa community court clash. Man bags 18 months jail for impersonating EFCC operative. Man bags 18 months jail for impersonating EFCC operative. 6 suspects arrested as violent clash erupts in Ekiti. 6 suspects arrested as violent clash erupts in Ekiti. Right. CBN suspends exports proceeds repatriation extension. This story actually broke yesterday, and they have another one here that tells us that Dangote refinery builds 8 more tanks for imported crude. Dangote refinery builds 8 more tanks for imported crude. I'm glad I was impeached as Oyo Deputy Governor Olayo. I'm glad I was impeached as Oyo Deputy Governor. That's quite paradoxical. I mean, is there anybody who ever becomes happy on account of being impeached as Deputy Governor? But of course, former Deputy Governor Olayo is not the first to be impeached in that role. We've seen that in Enugu. All right, we saw that in Edo. In fact, maybe that's even the most recent, yes, as far as we remember, the most recent instance of this kind of anomaly. We've seen that in even Ondo. We've seen it across states where the governor and his 2 IC, as they are often called on the streets, fallouts, all right, and then it becomes a case of the House of Assembly bringing all sort of, gimmicks and just play into the gallery to be able to get the governor out of the way, the deputy governor out of the way. And this often happens when it's close to election. Of course, the governor's second bid is a big stake, all right, for him, or as the case may be, even though we've not really had a hard situation in Nigeria. But in all of this, most times these are moves made on account of, well, the desire to protect the governor's political interests, all right, and things like that, all right. Nigerians suffering from Tinubu's policies, says Bauchi governor, that's Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State. 2027, I'm not worried about re-election, says Kano Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf. OG Kano host ex-appointees, seeks unity beyond politics. Threats to life, Atiku LP carpet Tinubu, APC Lapons OB. Alright, that's all we have for you this morning from our national dailies. We do hope you do well by going through the details for yourself this morning. Pick up copies from the vendors or read up, but just be sure that you avoid fake news in the middle of all this. A quick reminder to our viewers that all of the headlines we read out for you are just as delivered or published by their respective publishers. Global TV has not made any contribution and never makes any contribution and does not share any opinions regarding what these headlines and their details represent, right? We'll take a quick break now. Top of the hour is when we'll get to bring you the Global AN news. Do stay with us, everyone. welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime, to the Global AM News, I should say, on Global Television, coming to you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, with Uyag Mofwebe. Reminding our viewers that Global Television is on DSTV, channel 365 and free to air on Nigecomsat. President Bola Tinubu has met with visiting Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi at the presidential villa in Abuja. Yi, a member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, is in the country on a two-day working visit. The president is expected to discuss the Memorandum of Understanding signed during the 2024 summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in China. In the meantime, the Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China, Wang Yi, says his visit to Nigeria is to discuss how to deliver on the understandings reached at the 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation last December. He stated this during his meeting with his Nigerian counterpart, Yusuf Tugar, in Abuja, where he said his visit is to keep to the tradition of visiting Africa as the first overseas in the new year. He maintains the essence of the visits is to discuss on how to deliver on the 10 partnership actions reached at the forum in Beijing. President Bola Tinubu has decried the loss of 6 soldiers during a dawn terrorist attack on an army base in Sabongida, Damboa in Borno State. The president extended his condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers whose sacrifice, he says, in defending the nation would forever be honored and remembered. The president, in a statement by spokesman Bayo Onanuga, called for a thorough investigation to uncover the circumstances that led to the incident to prevent similar occurrences. The state government has reaffirmed its commitment to prioritizing the welfare of families of Nigeria's fallen heroes who died defending the sovereignty of the nation. Governor Hope Uzodinma made this pledge while launching the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day emblem at the Sam Mbakwe Executive Council Chamber at the Government House in Owerri. Our correspondent Amarachi Ibe has details.
The governor noted that the emblem symbolizes the nation's gratitude to the gallant men and women who put their life on line to safeguard the country's territorial integrity, stating his administration's commitment to a comprehensive approach in caring for the families of the fallen heroes. The event also provided an opportunity for the Imo State chapter of Nigerian Legion to appeal for increased support from the state government.
The event reminds us that the labors of our heroes past were not in vain. It is also gives a logical reassurance and motivation to the serving soldiers to put in their best in the service of their fatherland, seeing that the living and the fallen heroes are remembered, celebrated, and their dependents cared for by the government and people of goodwill.
Similarly, chairperson of the Military Widows Association, Imo State Chapter, Joy Moses, expressed gratitude to the government for its consistent care and support for their members.
Honorable Commissioner, please help us to say thank you to her. She has chosen us as her project. There is nothing she will be doing without us. She encourages us. She empowers us. Please, we are very grateful.
A significant part of the event was the presentation of a brand new bus to the Nigerian Legion Imo State Chapter by the state government.
I urge you to keep faith and keep doing what you know how to do well, supporting the government and protecting our environment, and by way of information, contacting the security agencies with useful information that will enable them do their work very effectively.
As the nation remembers its heroes, Imo State government continues to honor their sacrifices and support their families. Amarachi Ibe, reporting for Global TV News.
Well, thank you so very much, Amarachi, for your reporting from Owerri. On aviation matters now, the federal government has stressed that it has no desire to revive the Boston Nigeria Air project with Ethiopian Airlines. This comes amid inquiries about a reference to the revival of the National Carrier Project by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Dr. Ibrahim Abubakar Kana, during an handover ceremony in Abuja. The Bosch to Nigeria Air Project was a conception of former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika. President Bola Tinubu has divided the Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State, into 6 campuses. The Ondo State chapter of the All Progressives Congress APC disclosed this in a post shared on its official X account. The post says President Bola Tinubu has decided to split the Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State, into 6 campuses to ensure efficiency, national coverage, and smooth operations. The federal government says it is deepening partnership with global lessors and financiers to support Nigeria's domestic airline growth and fleet renewal. Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kayamo, made this known in an interview where he stated that the federal government is ready to improve its stakeholders' engagement and prioritize a thriving aviation ecosystem that is globally competitive, inclusive, and resilient. Kayamo said he would soon lead a team from the aviation sector in Nigeria to attend the Boeing Lessor Forum in Dublin, Ireland from January 12 to 15 as part of efforts to achieve this objective. The United States mission in Nigeria says it will close its operation on Thursday to honor former President Jimmy Carter. The U.S. mission stated this in the post on its official X handle, where it says the U.S. Embassy in Abuja and Consulate General in Lagos will be closed to honor the former United States President. Let's turn to Enugu State now, where a High Court has ordered that the scheduled election into the national offices of the Igbo Social Cultural Group, Ohanaeze Ndigbo Worldwide, be conducted without any interference. The Pan-Igbo Social Cultural Group has set January 10, 2025 as the date for a fresh election for its national officials and positions. It has been proposed that Rivers State will produce the next President General of the association, where Justice N.R. Orji had earlier issued an order restraining Engineer Chidi Ibe, Mazi Okechukwu, Ishigozoro, and Chief Richard Ozubu, named as the 5th, 6th, and 7th respondent in the suit, from interfering with the electoral committee set up by the outgoing President General of the group, Nze Ozichukwu. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, have urged the Nigerian National Medicines Development Agency to address the proliferation of unregulated herbal drinks in the country. The agency's resident commissioner for Lagos State, Kabiru Elelu, made the call at a one-day training webinar expressing concerns over the unchecked sale of herbal mixtures by hawkers, noting that the consumption of such substances poses severe health risks. Similarly, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it has stopped the registration of sachet alcohol since February 2024 as part of a campaign to curb its accessibility, especially to young people. The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, Jide Idris, says the country is not under serious threat from the human metapneumovirus, HMPV. Idris made the disclosure during a television interview where he said the virus is not a new one, it is well known. He further explained that just like the normal flu, other viruses or influenza, the respiratory virus is just one of those causes of respiratory problems, causing illness ranging from mild cold-like symptoms to severe respiratory infections, particularly in young children, older adults, and individuals with weakened immune systems. Elsewhere in the news, France has described as groundless the allegation by Niger Republic that Nigeria had offered its territory to it as a base to destabilize the former French colony. In an interview in Abuja, the political counselor to the Embassy of France in Nigeria, Bertrand de Chechon, refuted the claim made by the leader of Niger military junta, General Abdurrahmane Chani. Chani had recently alleged that Nigeria is colluding with France to undermine his country, accusing France of plotting to destabilize Niger by using neighboring Benin and Nigeria as bases for attacks. This is Global Television, and you're watching the live broadcast of the AM News from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. When the rest of the AM News returns, National Bureau of Statistics to introduce 3 new indexes in inflation report. We have those details as well as foreign and sports for you. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin this second half of the news broadcast with business. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says the details of the newly rebased gross domestic product, GDP, will be launched at the end of the month. This was disclosed at the sensitization workshop on GDP and CPI rebasing organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and the NBS in Lagos. In October, the Bureau had announced plans to rebase the GDP and CPI to reflect current realities and account for structural changes in the economy. The Central Bank of Nigeria has suspended approvals for the extension of export proceeds repatriation on behalf of exporters effective immediately. This directive issued via a circular applies to both oil and non-oil export transactions. The Apex Bank explains that the move aims to enforce compliance with existing foreign exchange regulations. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, has clarified that the 100 billion naira grant it requested for President Bola Tinubu is a loan and not free money. It had earlier reported that the association recently asked President Tinubu for a 100 billion naira grant to help its members cope with the effects of the fuel subsidy removal. The retailer said the grant would help stem the threat of job losses occasioned by the removal of subsidies, which culminated in a sharp increase in the cost of petroleum products, especially petrol and diesel. Let's go foreign in the news now. Chad's capital was reportedly calm yesterday morning after armed men attacked the presidential palace, sparking a battle that killed 19 people, mostly assassins. Reports say beefed up security and roadblocks were set up late and had been lifted in the area around the presidential palace, where traffic was back to normal. Heavy gunfire erupted near the presidential complex in the center of N'Djamena, the capital of the military-ruled Central African country. And beyond Africa now, President Joe Biden has cancelled his upcoming trip to Italy to focus instead on the federal response to wildfires raging from across Los Angeles, which have razed hundreds of homes and forced thousands to evacuate. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement that the U.S. President, after returning from Los Angeles, where he had met with police, fire and emergency personnel, made the decision to cancel his upcoming trip to Italy to remain focused on directing the full federal response in the days ahead. Biden had been due to travel to Italy, likely his final overseas trip as president. The Myanmar junta airstrike has killed at least 40 people in a village in western Rakhine state. A rescue worker and ethnic minority armed group said the Rakhine army engaged in a fierce fight with the military for control of Rakhine, where it has seized swathes of territory in the past year, all but cutting off the capital, Sittwe. Rakhine conflict is one element of the bloody chaos that has engulfed Myanmar since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's civilian government in a 2021 coup, sparking a widespread armed uprising. Let's turn to Russia now, where Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says Russia is closely monitoring the situation after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump refused to rule out military action to take Greenland from Denmark. Peskov said the Arctic was in Russia's sphere of national and strategic interest and is interested in peace and stability there. Trump's remarks on Greenland, a largely autonomous Danish territory, have drawn a warning from European leaders. Time to find some excitement from the world of sports. English Premier League club West Ham have confirmed the appointment of former Chelsea boss Graham Potter as its new head coach. The 49-year-old joins the Hammers on a 2.5-year contract and will take charge of his new team for the first time when the Irons travel to Aston Villa in the FA Cup third round. In his remark, Potter expressed his excitement at his return to the English domestic flight, noting that the move came at the right time for him. Some ex-internationals have criticized the Nigeria Football Federation NFF's decision to appoint Eric Schell, former Mali coach, as the head coach of the Super Eagles. The 47-year-old's appointment, announced just this week, has sparked concerns over his suitability for the role. Kadiri Ikana, an ex-international and former Super Falcons coach, expressed disappointment, arguing that homegrown coaches deserve more opportunities. He emphasized that Schell's track record does not surpass those of Nigerian coaches. Similarly, Harrison Jala, chairman of the Professional Football Association of Nigeria Task Force, questioned the rationale behind the decision. He said Schell's overwhelming tenure as Mali's coach, including poor performances at the Africa Cup of Nations and World Cup finals, should be of concern to stakeholders. And that's all we have for you here on the Global AM News. Thank you everyone for watching. Just to quickly remind all our viewers that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. Just to remind you as well that you can interact and engage with us using @Global TVNG and other handles as you now see on your screen across all of our social media platforms. I'm Wee Agumofwegbe saying a big thank you to you for watching. We will see you again. thank you for staying with us. We have two discussions up ahead for you, but just before we get to that, quite a number of things are happening in our country, and they are actually, bringing concerns around how we are moving, how we are making progress, and how much of progress that we are making as a country. The Executive Secretary of the National Senior Secondary Education Commission, Dr. Ajayi Iyela, is now saying that most private schools in this country, particularly secondary schools, are centers for examination malpractices in such a way that the culture has become so pervasive and very disturbing at the same time. All right, because exams are supposed to be a standard, all right, for measuring the performance of a student or a pupil or somebody who has undergone some kind of training, all right, to see how much you understand what you've been taught or that you've learned over time. But for the most part, that hasn't been the case. We see pupils, we see candidates, especially with regards to external examinations, trying to cut corners. You might hear things like special centers, medical centers, and things like that. So what Dr. Ajayi Iyela is saying is most of these private schools have now become the haven, so to speak, and very sadly for these kind of unhealthy practices. But the question is, are we under-regulating? The agencies involved, for example, also come to mind quickly. Are they underperforming? Are they carrying out their functions as efficiently and effectively as they are mandated to do? Are they handicapped in any way? Because whatever this gentleman is saying is really not new to most Nigerians, because we've been here for a while, all right? How do we mitigate this kind of situation? How do we address a challenge of this nature? Do we need to cut down the number of private schools we have? Do we need to, if you like, tighten the noose around the way these private schools conduct their exams, the way they carry out their business, their activities, and so on and so forth? Do we need to review penalties for exam malpractices, whether for those who are the direct beneficiaries, that is the candidates or the students themselves, or the proprietors, the collaborators, the mercenaries? Yes, that's one of the words that's commonly used in these parlance. What to do? Do we need to revisit the requirements for licensing a school or approving for a school to be established as a private entity within the education sector? What more should we do? Because there will be private schools, no doubt. Everywhere in the world there are private schools. There will be exams conducted from time to time, regardless of at what level or what nature or kind of exam you're talking about. But beyond complaining, beyond reminding Nigerians of what they are already abreast of, what more should they do? And then it brings you to parents beyond the regulatory authorities, all right? We still have parents, for example, who pay, yes, parents who pay for their children to be admitted into these special centers, especially when it has to do with external exams, WAEC and the likes. We've seen these agencies that conduct exams, WAEC, NECO, particularly the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, go ahead to say, let's be technology driven with regards to how our exams or tests are conducted. Of course, JAM had set a pace more than a decade ago to say, let's adopt the CBT model, right, which has now become relatively popular for conducting exams. But that technology has been here very long, even though Nigeria only adopted it in the recent history. But better late than never, as they say. So the question is, how is that helping us to hold down on all of this? It helps monitoring better. It minimizes the chances of bringing extraneous materials into the exam hall, what they call chukuli in local parlance, some sort of answers or materials that you bring into the exam hall just to aid your response to the questions, all right? It has minimized all of that. It may not have eradicated it totally, but even JAM has reported that, look, this CBT system has helped to cut down very significantly on the incidences of exam malpractices and all of that. And then, of course, if you go to the tertiary institutions, this phenomenon is also very present. I mean, I was writing an exam one time and somebody was found with extraneous materials, all right? And as it was being questioned by the external supervisor who was in the hall, obviously, one of the lecturers then, my own course advisor, had to say, look, you have to be careful, don't go against this guy so much, just gently take him out and do the needful in terms of prepping for the malpractice form, and then ultimately he has to present himself to the panel responsible for this kind of issue and all of that. And he said that there had been an experience where a student was being about the extraneous materials he brought into the hall because he knew what the consequence would be, all right, where it was established he had actually brought in those materials into the hall, all right. He jumped off the window. He just leaped out the window and landed into his death. This is a university in Nigeria. So we're saying that there's no limits to the horrific consequences of external exam malpractice. Go to secondary schools, especially the private ones that this gentleman is referring to, for example, and then you will see how that's on the day exams are written, whether it's WAEC or NECO. I mean, materials are written on the board, things are written on the board for candidates, right? It's almost as if they're having a regular lecture, like they're having a class, all right? On days you're writing subjects as sensitive as English, chemistry, math, biology, you see things are written on the board. Direct answers to questions are written on the board for candidates. And for the most part, you'll be shocked how that there are parents who have brought out their hard-earned money to pay for these young Nigerians to go to those places to write those exams just so they can pass in one sitting. All right, I have one sitting here on the program today. Let me make the most of it in the interest of our viewers. So we're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll talk some more. Do stay with us. Time and again, we've heard people say, look, they fight against insecurity in any of its forms: insurgency, banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, what have you, right? We will not achieve much, will not go very far if Nigeria does not, as a matter of urgent importance, collaborates or partner with some other very established, so to speak, nations. For instance, we heard about, needs to partner with Great Britain, needs to partner with the United States. At the point, there were even calls for Nigeria to consider the option of getting mercenaries from a place like Russia. That was a concern at the point. I mean, why don't you just engage some of these mercenaries from Russia? After all, other countries, even within West Africa, had done it. What's the big deal? The important thing is, let's get this job done. The end justifies the means and what have you. But we know as of today that Nigeria's government has vehemently said, look, that's not one of the options on the table. We have a few other options, but this certainly isn't one of them. But as it stands today, China is, quite frankly, fast becoming the likely partner that Nigeria has found in this regard. Recall that President Bola Tinubu was in Beijing, China in September, and some sort of agreement had been reached and action points highlighted. Now, Chinese senior official is in Nigeria on a 2-day visit, Wang Yi, to see how to further, pursue those interests of Chinese authorities and the Nigerian government. Part of it squarely focuses on security in Nigeria, of course, and then Africa generally. So to that end, part of this understanding is that the Chinese government is making $1 billion Chinese yuan available to Nigeria and other African nations to help them fight off insecurity. I know some persons watching in Nigeria now are scratching their heads and asking, hold on a second, how much does it come to? I mean, what is 1 billion Chinese yuan in Naira? Well, Google is your friend, plus your other resources you can use. That's not even the focus of this conversation. We're looking at how that Nigeria is now tilting towards China for two essential things. One is security issue. How do we strengthen our security front and fight off insecurity of any kind? The second is the currency swap that Nigeria is now going into with China. We understand that there is a 2 billion one currency swap that Nigeria is going into with China. Recall that during the days of former President Muhammadu Buhari, we had also made these attempts. Of course, the embattled with former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele was in office at the time, but today that doesn't seem to have changed much, because the government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu appears to still be interested in this initiative. So we're looking at the 2 billion Chinese yuan currency swap with Nigeria, and it's interesting that President Bola Tinubu is saying we need to increase, we need to ramp up this currency swap. Let's do more beyond these 2.3 billion Chinese yuan efforts that we're seeing already. So you're asking, what exactly is the implication? What does it mean for Nigeria? One of the things we're hearing is that it will help us to considerably, yes, operative word, considerably minimize or reduce our dependency on the US dollar, which has become more like, if you like, a parallel government for us, economically speaking. Because how do you explain that you live in a country like Nigeria, where Naira is the legal tender, Naira is the official standard currency of the country, and then you see most transactions, even localized transactions, are done in dollar. Politicians bribe in dollar. Politicians do business in dollar. Government does transactions in dollar in a Naira economy. How do you explain that? Of course, there's the element of hypocrisy. There's the element of not even respecting our own Naira. Alright, there's several other very disturbing and nasty elements in the mix. So we have an eye out, we have an ear on the ground, trying to figure out exactly where this is heading, what it means ultimately for Nigeria as well. But we circle back to the issue of insecurity in the country. China already has a strong foot in Nigeria today. I mean, look at the railway, look at the traffic light system, particularly in a place like Abuja, look at construction work and several other interests, of public interest in this country. China is significantly involved in them, and now we're bringing security into it as well. How much beyond what we understand or we are made to understand Nigeria has to gain or stands to gain, how much are we likely to lose in this regard? Is China suddenly giving out free money to countries across the world and is making Nigeria one of its beneficiaries? Is food for thought is a question we need to ask, because we remember in this same country, former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Chibuike was in front of federal legislators, in particular senators, and the Chinese agreement for railway loans was also on the table. And at that time, many Nigerians, including some senators, had raised concerns about the issues regarding those loans, the agreements, the clauses in the MOU signed between the Chinese government and the leadership in Nigeria under former President Muhammadu Buhari at the time. Mr. Amaechi made all efforts, frantically defending that loan. But today we know there are issues with regards to that loan or those loans, because they actually came in tranches. And those issues have now become, as they say, the elephants in the room. As a matter of fact, they are now the big elephants in the room, right? Let's take yet another break. Top of the hour is when we join our guests, first of all, to start talking about socio-economic issues under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, particularly now that we are in a new year. Just yesterday in this same Abuja, a federal high court where you have Justice Awinte sentenced a young man to 2 years imprisonment for internet fraud, where a $345,000 transaction was said to have taken place. Of course, the EFCC had been prosecuting this case since August, when this individual got arrested and a couple of valuables found in his possession. Naturally, as expected, those items were confiscated and also tendered as exhibits to the court. But just yesterday, it was more like a closure of some kind, where having done all, as I say, due diligence carried out, he got sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, and that in itself has now become an issue of, well, what exactly is it with internet fraud? It's quite a long drawn-out conversation to have, because time will fail us to go into all the nitty-gritty of it. But just for background, this young man had been arrested on suspicion that he had defrauded a certain American to the tune of $345,000, impersonating a couple of individuals using names that are not even African, let alone Nigerian, to perpetrate all of this. As expected, the EFCC also tendered evidence in this regard. So finally yesterday he got 2 years imprisonment. And you have several of these cases, young people and things like that. The EFCC can only do so much. The courts can only do so much. The justice system, the law enforcement in this country can only do so much. But what more will the rest of us do in this regard? Well, it's all up to us now, isn't it? Quite an interesting thing. People have been talking about the Ghana election, by the way, just to turn to other issues, how it's a symbol of what election should be, what statesmanship should be, what, accepting victory, dealing with loss, or being a sportsman should be, and how that electoral process should be conducted at the minimum in a place like Africa, particularly beginning with the West African sub-region, because just this week on Tuesday precisely, John Mahama, a man who had done his first term and left office in 2016, got sworn in for his second and last term of 5 years. And this has raised issues around, is Ghana now the new standard, like the beacon for how we should be guided regarding election? Of course, as expected, senior Nigerian officials were there. President Bola Tinubu led the likes of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, and then a few other Nigerians there. But in all of this, what are some of the lessons we should learn? One is the campaign itself. The process was not perfect, let's be very clear, unless we want to lie to ourselves. It wasn't. But you see, Africa is still evolving. A continent of 54 countries where you have had series of coups the last few decades, the most recent 4 happening the last 4 or 5 years. All right, so it's still dealing with a lot at the very fundamental level. But Ghana has been able to show that you can have elections in such a way that you put country first, whatever that means, whether it's about the rhetorics that the actors themselves, especially the candidates and their political parties, are driving, or is about how the umpire, in the case of Nigeria, INEC, conducts itself, or is about how the people understand the issues and decide to vote along those lines. It's about everything. It's about posterity. It's about the future. It's about development and growth and national cohesion and patriotism. So all of these values are some we can bring to bear as we conduct elections in our country, particularly knowing that 2027 may look far calendar-wise, but it's not very far when you look at it from the standpoint of how the election cycle works. Because at the end of the day, elections are not just about numbers. Elections are not just about who votes and who doesn't vote. It's about who is voted for and why that person is voted for. Then ultimately, what will that person do with the votes that they've got? Because in the final analysis, what election does is to produce a winner. And the quality of the thinking of that winner, the caliber and stature of that winner, the objectives of that winner, the policy direction of that winner, the kind of leadership team that winner will assemble and put leadership on the road real time as quickly as possible will matter. An example is in front of us. As soon as John Mahama was inaugurated, he started announcing appointments, which means before that he already knew who would do this and who would do that. Of course, we have seen that example in the US. Maybe that's too far an instance to cite, but this one comes closer to home because it's just Ghana. So who says you can't be running for office even when there's no guarantee, there's no 100% assurance that you're going to emerge the president, for example? I mean, talking at the federal level now, that you can't decide or as it were, itemize who will man this, who will man that. So that by the time you win an election, you're making announcements. I mean, you're getting to work instantly because you don't have all the time to waste. You spent months campaigning. Before that, you spent months trying to get the ticket of your party, and now you want to spend months again to make appointments. And you're saying, well, you know, my party is on my neck. There's pressure from my party leaders, from the godfathers, the people, my in-laws. They want me to appoint this and this person. But you see, leadership also requires courage. Otherwise, it's going to be mediocrity the entire time. So Ghana's election and the leadership that will be provided by Dr. John Mahama will become talking points for the next few weeks and months to come. All right, so we're taking our last break before our first conversation on the program this morning. When we return, we'll be looking at socio-economic situation of Nigerians since the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, particularly with these reforms that have been underway for what has now become almost 2 years. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's get talking. It's been several months, give or take. We're looking at 20 months, that is a year and 8 months, since we've been talking about economic hardship, difficulties occasioned by removal of fuel subsidy, how that states are now getting more money and as such are expected to do more for their people instead of having citizens look up to the federal government the entire time, and so on and so forth. But that in itself has been a debate that doesn't look like one that has an end anytime soon. Because just yesterday, somebody was saying that while on the one hand we keep railing against state governments or even governors to say that you guys are now receiving more money, all thanks to the fact that subsidy payment got suspended and the country is now able to save more and so on and so forth. On the other hand, that money doesn't amount to much, given the inflation numbers, or if you like, inflationary pressure that we now have. In other words, it will not do as much now as it could have done 2, 3, or even 5 years ago. So let's look at the volume of money going to states. Instead, we should be concerned about the value, not the volume, of these funds that states now receive by way of allocation or by whatever nomenclature by which they are referred. But we're joined now by someone who is a public affairs commentator as well as a lawyer, Sunday Wugera, who just was waiting through via Zoom from Yola this morning. Thank you and happy New Year to you, Barrister Wugera.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Happy New Year, everyone.
Okay. I'm not so sure if you can hear me, but let's try to establish a connection as quickly as possible. We just want to look at issues around the challenges that Nigerians are now dealing with. The festive season just ended. It's the new year. There are pressures that came with that year. And some of those pressures have also entered this year in a manner of speaking, and we're hoping that it doesn't become a challenge now in 2025 as it was the case in 2024. Happy New Year to you and welcome to Global Morning, Barrister Wugera.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Good morning.
Thank you. So I was hoping we won't start the new year with this kind of conversation, but as it stands right now, we don't have much of a choice, do we? So let's look at how 2024 ended. You and I spent quite a number of time here, talking about all of these challenges, how the hardship was biting hard on citizens and all of that. By the time 2024 ended, what were your thoughts in terms of the hardship and the challenges that Nigerians have to deal with?
Well, 2024 was quite a challenging year, actually, particularly with regards to the quality of life we live and the cost of living. Everything was on a spiral, upward spiral. Prices of foodstuff, cost of living generally, whatever is just going up, and it has been a very excruciating and difficult year for the whole of the people in Nigeria. It was a year that no one ever envisaged and no one could pray to relieve, because in all the indices of life, be it security, be it education, be it whatever, yes, there was an increment of salary, but to what extent people felt the impact of that increment? It was like something little was given to you in a cup and much was taken in a bucket. So it wasn't a good year at all.
You talked about the hardship and people complaining, little giving in the cup, much taking in the budget. It's a new year. This is 2025. So maybe we can allow bygone be bygone, all right, and focus on the new year. But this is the 10th day into 2025. What do you see happening? Because we still have issues around the tax reform bills, for example. We have policy issues in other areas of the economy, for instance. What exactly are your thoughts about these unfolding developments?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the tax reform issue is just a diversionary tactic. It's a way of diverting the minds of Nigerians from what actually is happening around the country. The economy is going down, and I am afraid the government is lacking in the capacity to even address with all sense of responsibility and accountability the issue of the dwindling economic fortunes of this country. The government is making it look like without the tax reform, the economy would not go anywhere, and Nigerians would not have a reprieve. The governors, on the other hand, and particularly the northern governors, against this tax reform, and the people of the north are against this tax reform. What the government has at the center has failed to do is that they have failed to even purge themselves of the incapacity, seeming incapacity, and the real incapacity that they are facing. With the removal of fuel subsidy, it is expected that the lives of people would change for the better economically. But we have seen how everything is becoming excruciatingly difficult and painful for everyone in this country, including the government itself, with so much money, but yet poverty is on the increase and prices are rising every day, foodstuffs, and even the food, you don't see the food. You know, there is no visible concrete investment in agriculture, in industry, in power. You know, all we are having is that everything is collapsing, you know, and people are talking about, let us have more money, let us create programs and policies that will take money away from people so that we will be able to build Nigeria. And you see, with this attitude, I am afraid 2025 may even be worse than 2024, because I have not seen any in concrete. The government is not showing capacity and demonstrating that to the satisfaction of everyone. You know, what we are just having is that government is harping on, we need to have more money to give you quality life. But the little that the government is having from the fuel subsidy removal is not reflecting on the lives of Nigerians. So he who cannot be accountable with a little, he can never be trusted with much.
Okay, let's talk about the 19 state governors that you mentioned just a while ago. I mean, all 19 of them, regardless of party affiliation and all of that, are railing against these reform bills, executive bills, I should say, in front of the National Assembly right now. For whatever it's worth, it is believed by many that those bills are making progress in front of legislators. But let's look at why these 19 northern governors are against these bills, when we hear that these bills as proposed have a lot of benefits for the entire country, not just for regions. Why aren't we talking about those benefits? Why are we focusing on maybe a few items or elements that we're not comfortable with?
Well, they have a reason, actually, to my mind. Like, I want to talk about understanding of this VAT of 18, you know, because it is the central issue about this tax reform something. What I understand is that, let me give you an example. We are using virtual we are using virtual interface for this interview.
Right.
MTN that I am using is charging me, but it is not reflecting that I am using this data here in Yola. They are going to pay in Lagos. So it is as if it is Lagosians that are consuming the data I am consuming here. Until that issue of consumption where the tax is going to or is reflecting that this is generated from Adamawa State and so amount is generated. Banks and whatever, we will continue to have issues and people will continue to have doubt about the sincerity. People are now believing that this whole thing is skewed to the in the best interest and to favor Lagos State, and the president is from Lagos. This issue, until it is resolved and addressed, we will never make a headway. And people are pretending as if they don't know about this fear, they don't know about this ghost and doubt. It is real and it is germane. It must be addressed. The unfortunate thing is that these people driving the tax reform engaged by the presidency, they were before now against these tax reforms and increment. What has happened that they have started singing a new song now? What has happened? Why? I hope you are getting the law. So you cannot be hypocritical in your posture and you think that the people will believe you. And you think that the people will take whatever you are saying hook, line, and sinker. So until Nigerians learn to be patriotic, learn to be always consistent, we will never make a headway. Today, if I am opposing something because Tinubu is at the helm of affairs, and tomorrow because somebody from here is at the helm of affairs and I am beginning to sing a different, I am a hypocrite. And right-thinking human beings will never believe me. In fact, they will begin to see that I am just one terrible person that is coming to bring changes because he is benefiting or because I am benefiting. That is the issue. So most of the drivers of these new economic policies, tax policies, are hypocrites. They kicked against tax reforms and increment in the past. What has changed and what has happened that they are singing a different song today because Tinubu is there?
All right, that smacks off of some sort of politics of ethnicity, which we try every other day to fight against. People have said that Nigeria is not a rich country. I mean, from Bayo Onanuga, the special advisor on media to the governor, to many, Nigerians of stature, that look, this country is not a rich country, no matter how you want to have the debates. What's your position? Is Nigeria a rich country with or without crude oil?
Nigeria is a rich country. Nigeria is a rich country with poor-sighted leaders, poor-sighted drivers and managers. We can harness our resources. We can make a difference. You can see what has been happening in Nigeria. For more than 20 years, Nigeria has been importing refined petroleum products. When Dangote came and launched the Dangote refinery, it is government through NNPCL that tried everything they could, including recruiting marketers to go against Dangote refinery. Now that they have realized that there is nothing they could do, all of a sudden, Port Harcourt refinery is refining. Warri is working. Kaduna is going to be refurbished. Port Harcourt 2 is also being worked on. So is that not telling you something? that these same people that are entrusted with our resources are the ones that are creating more problems for Nigerians and Nigeria instead of solutions. You know, until we look at ourselves critically, we do some critical introspection on the people that are entrusted with our commonwealth. How well are they managing it? When they tell you that this cannot be done, you have to ask yourself, is it true? Is it from a nationalistic and patriotic perspective that these people are saying that this cannot be done? Or is it from their own selfish, wicked, short-sighted understanding and belief?
You talked about a while ago that there are those who had railed against these reforms in tax, especially as it has to do with the VAT, that is the value-added tax before now. But all of a sudden, I mean, based on your own reckoning, on account of the fact that you have President Bola Tinubu in office now, these same individuals are rallying around the tax reforms bills and what have you. We are also seeing this issue of ethnic politics when we had former President former President Muhammadu Buhari. We are seeing that with former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Maybe less of it when it was Dr. Goodluck Jonathan because of the minority factor and all of that. How do we make progress in Nigeria, Barrister Wugera, in the face of ethnic division? I mean, you talk about religious differences, you talk about partisan affiliations, and so on and so forth. At what point are we going to say the man from Kaduna State, the man from the far part of Borno State, the man from Bayelsa, the lady from Lagos, the community from Enugu, they are all Nigerians? Beyond all of these issues around who is in office, where is the person from, and so on and so forth.
Let me shock you, sir, this morning.
Hopefully I'm ready for that.
Venture today or tomorrow, yes, God makes me the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. People from my community in Mubi, 99% of the people that will come to congratulate me are not congratulating me because God has given me the opportunity to turn around Nigeria. But they will come to say, it is our turn. So make good use of it. They want everybody from Mubi to be appointed into my government. They want every juicy appointment. And I'm taking this, I'm telling you this from the depth of my heart. Most of the people that are congratulating our leaders today are not congratulating them and reminding them of the fact that God has given them an opportunity and the people have given them an opportunity to do what is right. But it is your turn to enrich yourself and your people. It is sad. It has become the norm. People are seeing government as a criminal enterprise to make money and not to serve. So until and unless we have leaders that are nationalistic in thinking and character and behavior, people who believe that when you come with an idea of it is my turn, I will shut you down, we will never make a headway. We will never make a headway. Even leaders are not helping matters. And let me tell you something. A lot of people believe that this government, because of the posture it came on board, this Muslim thing, you know, a lot of people are shouting today because they expected that as a Muslim, this thing, everything is going to be free for me against the other religion, you know. And all of a sudden it was discovered that no, this thing, the Muslims and everybody is suffering. So where is the Muslim thing? I hope you are getting me. It was not about Nigeria. And you think that you divide people because you want to rule them. You can't bring them together when you are ruling them. When you divide at the verge of ascending power, you rest assured that you are going to rule over divided people. And that is what is happening today. This regionalism of it is the posture of the president. Of all the people that we have had when Yar'Adua was in power, for the short period that he was there was no such accusation. When Goodluck Jonathan came on board, he embraced everybody. And you have seen how particularly some cabals that enthroned Buhari. They divided Nigerians along ethnic and religious lines, and they even ensured that there was a lot of issues. And that is why throughout the reign of President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria has been a divided entity. And today, that is the excess luggage that President Bola Tinubu is carrying. He brought his own also. The Muslim thing has deeply divided Nigerians. And they think that it was about politics. And now it is becoming difficult. And even the people that are even against his government are the Muslim north. That is a reality and that is the fact. And it was because you can't ride on the back of the tiger and expect that you survive. You can't divide a people because you want to rule them and expect that things will just be easy for them. They will never be united. And you have to know that most of the people, they were given hopes that no one can guarantee. No one can guarantee. Even the president was busy saying that it has nothing to do with religion, it was just politics. And now, when it is time for governance, it is no longer governance. And there is always this difficulty. A lot of people, if you get to hear the opinions of people in the north now, you get to know that these people, what is happening? When you lie to people because you want to get their support, you will have to contend with their anger when the time of reality has dawned. So, and that is what we are having today. And the unfortunate thing is, let me still take you to what I am talking about, people that are being hypocritical. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on this tax reform, I can't remember his name right away.
Taiwo Oyedele.
When Buhari was, yes, when Buhari wanted to increase VAT from 5% to 7.5%, he was the one that was busy telling everyone that that increment was inhuman. You cannot continue to tax people that are poor. You cannot continue to take from people that are poor. If you cannot give them, you should leave them where they are instead of taking away from them. And today he is singing a different song, and you think people will take him serious?
Is it not possible circumstances have also changed between then and now?
But he has not given reason as to why he is changing what he is saying. He has changed his statement. Why the increment yesterday was not feasible, but the increment today is feasible. You have to give people why you are shifting, reasons as to why you are shifting, concrete and compellable reasons. But you can't just come and start speaking from both sides of your mouth and you expect people to take you serious and patriotic. These are some of our challenges. And you see, even some of our leaders in picking the people that are working for them, you have to have the capacity to look at people that have capacity and bring them on board. That is the issue. You have to have a broad spectrum perspective of the people across. You sample. There are when you are in government, your government has nothing to do with your party. It is about the people. It is when it is time for politicking that you start talking about party, because you have sworn to serve everyone without fear or favor, ill will or affection. And our leaders must be always conscious of this. And I'm telling you, that is why I have respect for the governor of Adamawa State. He is carrying everyone. Of course, not everyone would want to join the trend. Some people are always believe that if it is not me, if I am not the driver, I am not going to join the trend. But he has carried a greater majority of the people of Adamawa State, even from other parties. And that is why his government is stable. And that is why everybody is praising his government, save those that want to, create one or two issues for themselves, and perhaps they know why they are doing these things because it pays them somewhere. But a government that is serious, a leader that is serious, is going to carry everyone. And it is going, the government of the people is a listening government. Listening government.
I want us to start winding down now, Barrister Wugera. Insecurity, that's where we're going to land. You are from apparently Adamawa State, Mubi precisely. You are not a stranger to all of the news around insecurity, whether it's banditry or insurgency as we know it, Boko Haram and all the other elements. Recently, Nigeria started showing signs of tilting towards France. And now we're hearing China is already in the picture, giving some $1 billion, some 1 billion Chinese yuan, I should say, to Nigeria and other African countries to help them strengthen their security fronts and all of that. For some people, this is probably, well, that's international collaboration we've been clamoring for the entire time. For others, it is a way of telling Nigerians, I mean, they are trying to tell the government of Nigeria that, look, you have to tread carefully, whether with France or with the Chinese government. What's your position on this development?
Well, we have a curious way of making ourselves a laughingstock in the Committee of Nations. Before now, there was a very serious, wide allegation against France that it was responsible for our insecurity, particularly in northern Nigeria. And today we are embracing our problems and to find a solution there. Well, I am not versed in international relations, I have to admit, but then common sense should tell you that if you identify your problem, you should deal with that problem. But the Nigerian nation has not been able, the Nigerian government has not been able to tell Nigerians whether actually by embracing France, that was chased away from their former colonies that they have stayed for centuries. When we embrace them, it will serve us and our interest. I don't know about that. I wouldn't want to go deeper. But I think that if we are serious, we can solve these problems internally. These people are from Nigeria. And by the way, for 8 years that Buhari was in power, our borders were closed. And I am yet to even hear or see any circular from the government of the Federation that these borders are opened. How and why, where from these bandits and insurgents getting their weapons from outside of this country? Common rice, you can't bring it in. The customs people will follow you to your house and confiscate it, or to your shop. So why is it that they can identify rice and follow it to even homes and shops, but they cannot identify guns and bombs? You know, these are serious questions that we need to ask.
Interesting. So let's come back. Let's bring it a little closer to home. You live up north, for example. There has been some rift between Nigeria and the authorities in the Niger Republic under its new military leader, Abdulrahman Chani. I'm not even very sure whether I should be referred to as the new leader, because it's been there since the coup happened in July of 2023. But let's talk more about the rift, or if you want to put it differently, the conflict between Nigeria and the Niger Republic. Niger is our neighbor. How do we deal with that? That's the much time we'll allow us to take on this interview with Barrister Sunday Wugera, apparently a lawyer and a public affairs commentator who has been shedding light on recent developments in Nigeria and the implications for us as a government and as a people. I want to say a big thank you to our guest this morning for finding out time in spite of his busy schedule this Friday morning to join us. Also, we appreciate all of our viewers who have joined us from around the world to watch Global Morning, Friday's edition. Just a quick reminder that the views of our guests on all of our programs are their opinions. On behalf of the team here at Global Television's World Headquarters in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, I'm Muyi Agmofu. We send a big thank you to you for watching. I will see you again.
Welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies to, for sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the access strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.